Paul, how you doing today? And welcome back to Live from America.
Great, Jeremy. How are you? Good to be back.
Oh, I'm great, man. You want to know why I'm great? A, we won the election, so
Right.
that helps a little bit. But B, we've been watching the markets, right? Ever since you have come on to help us here at LFA TV understand the market, understand precious metals, and really get a handle on it. Me and the audience have been literally watching the trends every day and making our own predictions based on debt, based on the economy, based on a lot of different things. And we have been accurately, to a degree, predicting where we think it's going to go this week, this week, and we've been pretty good at doing it. And we have a thing here every day that when I talk about Colonial Metals Group, we refresh the numbers and we see if our predictions were right. And I got to tell you, it's been since you've been with us, it's been such a blessing because if you're going to invest in precious metals to protect what you've built, then you have to know the mark. You have to understand it. You don't just do it blindly. And normal people just don't take somebody's word for it. And so many people here are now educated so much more because of you. So for that, I just want to say thank you. And it's been great being able to do that.
Great. Well, I'm glad to be of use. That's my main job is to be useful to others, useful to your audience, to help explain complicated things in simple ways and do it quickly. Um, but the one thing I would say about tracking gold and silver's prices now is you're still, just from the assessment I've made and everything I've come to learn over, much more than a decade, gosh, maybe almost 2 decades now,
Wow.
is that there's two phases for owning gold and silver. There's the pre-crisis position that you create. That's the one you really want. That's the one you want. You want to be in precious metals before the crisis. How can we be sure there's going to be a crisis? Well, this would be the 11th recession in our nation's history since World War II. So it's obviously repeating. The crisis comes. It's part of the seasonality of the financial world. The second phase is the post-crisis, where the crisis is kicked off and you're out of the headlines phase. And that's when gold and silver really takes off, rising higher in price, and you may not even be able to, keep up with it because the demand for it goes parabolic. So pre-crisis pricing now, it's trending higher, it drifts sideways a little, jumps higher, settles lower. All of that's normal. And it's nice to watch it go higher while you're coming to this solution before the problem blows up in one's face. And that's the only value I offer. I can only be valuable to people before the crisis kicks off, when they're still wondering in their minds, will it happen? How bad will it be? When will it happen? We don't know exactly when. We know that the headlines confirm for us that we're headed in that direction.
So correct me if I'm wrong here. Gold, silver, precious metals as a whole, they exploded under Donald Trump's first presidency. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, they did. They did. Yep.
Can you
It's
explain to the audience why that happened?
So just take Trump out, take Obama out, take Bush out, take Biden out. There's a lot of government printing of money that is accelerating every year. So when Obama was president, not only was he the greatest gun salesman in the world, he was one of the best gold salesmen as well.
Yeah.
Because the government solutions are horrific. Now, the president can't really get Congress to send him a bill that says we're going to spend 30% less this year. We're going to stop printing money this year. If the president won't sign a budget, then the Congress gets what's called continuing resolution, means they get to spend the exact same amount of money they got last year, this year. And we had probably 4 or 5 years of CRs under Obama. Because we had other than his first 2 years, I think 6 years, the Republicans either had the House or the Senate and they could block that stuff. So I don't want to get too down in the weeds on it. So the money printing can't stop. Our bills get worse and worse. The interest on the debt goes higher and higher. They have to just think they have to print even more money just to pay the interest on the debt.
Yeah.
So that can't stop.
Yeah, the only way that stops is if you're not in debt anymore. And I don't see that happening under any president for
Right.
maybe ever at this point. I mean, what are we, $36 trillion in debt? I mean, the interest alone outweighs is like matching our military defense budget. It's like, how do
Yeah.
you, how do you sustain that? And I think the only way to sustain it is security. And there's always security in owning the precious metal itself,
Because
especially
it's
since we're
not
not
in the
on the gold.
dollar.
That's right.
Because you've left the dollar.
That's right.
You literally have gone outside the dollar's realm when you're in gold. And so now if you're in real estate, loans are still needed to chase after real estate to cause the price to rise, right? Loan demand is facilitated in a major way by loans, which is done in dollars, which is done at financial institutions. So gold and silver is truly the only thing outside of the dollar. You could say Bitcoin, just there's some things that are unproven about Bitcoin, and a lot of our retired, mature audience, as you said, our retired community doesn't understand or feel good enough about cryptocurrency to put their retirement savings into it.
Yeah, and it's still so new. Like you said, there's just unanswered questions. Like, I'm not telling people not to go out and get it, but we know for sure what gold, silver, palladium, platinum, we know what these precious metals do. We know the value they hold, and we know that nations are chasing that kind of security, right? That's why you got these BRICS nations trying to go, get away from the dollar and go and be backed by something physical again. And they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, you do a Substack, right? You do a Substack every week. What are you advising people in your Substack about recently? Like, what are you talking about the gold and silver markets? And just kind of give us an update as to what you're releasing in your Substack in case people don't follow it.
Yeah, well, I'm always saying that, this is real. And what's funny is when we say we need something physical, my dinner was physical last night. The gas I pumped into my car was physical. The car was physical. The rubber on the tires was physical. The bed I slept in was physical. The only thing we aren't using that's physical is like, the Instagram influencer, the money system, and cryptocurrency isn't physical. So what I continue to write about, and what my last one was on, was MAGA, please, thank you. And then $GA, make the dollar great again. And that's the conundrum. This is now a math problem. I've said to many great longtime economists, I said, what's GDP without the printed money? And they just demur and they say, oh, I know there's been a lot of bad policy decisions. Well, here's, just quick numbers. In 2008, GDP was 15 trillion and debt was 10 trillion. Today, GDP is up $12 trillion to 27 trillion. That's the financial output of our country for the year. But debt is 35 trillion. So the government decided to pay its bills with printed money, 25 trillion in new debt since '08 and 12 trillion in revenue. 25 trillion in debt got 12 trillion in revenue. That's insanity. So I write about making the dollar great again. And the only way to really do that is to cut. You either manage to the bust and you make decisions, good policy decisions that literally cut the spending, which will cause strife and pain and heartache in the country and around the world. It will be what really kills inflation, because real inflation at the grocery store and around town for us consumers is around 12%, 8%, not 2.5% or 3%. When the Fed says it wants inflation at 2%, that does not include groceries or petroleum. So what the hell does that number mean to you and me? That number is our way of judging if they're doing a good job telling the truth or not.
Wow.
They're not even telling the truth about how they calculate inflation. They're lying. They're using it as an economic tool, not consumer price index. We consumers consume a lot of agriculture and petroleum related products. So
it's like when they report the crime numbers, they leave out the most important stuff that actually matters to us, the physical daily experience of life, and they leave that stuff out so they can pad numbers and make things look different.
Right. Pad numbers for the podium. So that's
right.
what people, my whole job, the kernel of what I'm doing is trying to wake people or illuminate on for folks that there's two versions of the story. There's the real story that they probably wonder is real, but we keep hearing from the podium the story that helps people get reelected or stay in power. You need to look at moving your money to precious metals now that most people can catch their breath. I love how you're showing half the country that's losing their minds. I still have the image of all of Hillary's fans in the stadium just crying and having heart palpitations when they realized Hillary wasn't going to win in 2016. That is enthusiastic for me, by the way. But we have to let people know now you can catch your breath with Trump there. I was down at Mar-a-Lago for his first celebration, AFPI. I was invited by Larry Kudlow, who created the Institute in 2021 to help Trump get reelected. Stallone introduced President Trump, saying he makes it, Trump reminds him of George Washington's
Yes.
second coming.
That's right.
But I say there was a difference. I think he's more like Braveheart. Washington was fighting a visiting army and navy, right? We were here, the British were visiting here. That's a different fight. We had already run away from the craziness of the monarchies so we could have decide our own destiny here in America. Trump is fighting an enemy that's already here, that lives here.
Ooh,
That's a very difficult army to fight.
wow.
That enemy is extremely difficult to win over, especially when you only have 4 years to do it. So this is where people need to make their dollars great again. The government can't solve this problem because it's created it. So people have to make their dollars great again. One way to do that is have your dollars not losing 8% a year, but gaining as gold and silver has as the dollar has died.
Wow. I like the analogy there, the Braveheart thing. That's freedom, right?
When I shook
Freedom.
President Trump's hand at Mar-a-Lago, that's what I told him. I said, Mr. Trump, you remind me of Braveheart. What you did, roaming around the countryside, winning hearts and minds, fighting cases, fighting attacks, fighting assassination attempts, not quitting, go, rally after rally after rally after rally, and rallied still after the attempt at Butler. Like, he didn't go in a bubble like the Pope rides around in the little bubble so no one can assassinate the Pope. He stood out there in the open air.
Yeah. Fight,
That's
fight,
Braveheart,
fight.
man.
Well,
That's
that's
Braveheart.
That's what we need to do, folks. We need to take on a Braveheart mentality, fight for every dollar that we've ever worked for in our country. And the way to do that, colonialmetalsgroup.com/LFA. Reach out today for a free consultation. Might even talk to Paul. Who knows? Paul, thank you as always for partnering with us. Thank you for educating us. And thank you for coming on periodically and giving us an update. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, the Substack is substack.com. You could just search The Paul Stone in their little search bar, and my writings, I put them up about one every 3 weeks.
So see that, folks? You can stay ahead of it before he comes on the show, and then you'll know exactly what he's talking about.
Study before we cover the content.
Boom. There you go. Paul, I salute you, sir. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, colonialmetalsgroup.com. Paul, God bless, and we'll see you later, okay?
See you soon. God bless.
All right. Always a good time to talk to Paul, especially for me and my family who actually bought into gold and silver. And it's nice to own it. Like, here's some right here. There's some silver right there, folks. It's nice to physically own it in your own hands.